So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, I mean, this is pretty much, I was just going to do Q&A. I think unless Josh has something else planned.
No, we've got a couple questions. So, Chris, if you scroll back up in the chat, Chris, if you would like to post that again, you can do that. Chris can get us started here, though.
Okay.
He's got a good question.
Let me see what we got here. Okay, I think I found it. All right. So Chris says, as far as question from webinar, how do you deal with people that have walked away from you, even those whom might have been considered best friends that consider you a sellout for actually going out and doing what you said you're going to do in the face of sheer adversity? Should I wait for these people to eventually come back around, or are they just mopers that never chose to be smartened up? Action, it takes big action to get things done. Or then again, maybe it's just 1 or 2% of people in your circle of friends that are actually going to, quote, get it, and the rest are left behind, stuck in the mindset of that they are somehow not worthy of getting to better versions of the persons they are. So this is a good question. I mean, I think there's a few ways that I would answer this question. The biggest thing I would say is that as you grow, right, and this is something that I think is uncomfortable for a lot of people, but you really need to embrace this concept, which is as you grow, the friends that you have will change, and they should change over time. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't have any kind of long-lasting friendships, but as you become a different person, as you are developing yourself, even amongst other people that are developing themselves, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like a progression tree for like an RPG, right? I mean, if you're a paladin and your buddy is a cleric, right, you're going to go down a different progression tree, even though you may have started in the same party and you're still fighting monsters together. Like at some point, you may go off and find other paladins to get your training to the next level, right? And he might go off and find other clerics. It's just naturally going to happen as you specialize further and you grow, because you're not necessarily going to grow down the same path, right? This is just the way of life, of relationships. It doesn't mean that you don't ever have people that do stick with you the whole time. So I would say that's kind of the base level, is just to understand that you are going to change and your friends are going to change, and the kind of friends that you have are going to change. And I mean, if you think about it, right, if you become, let's say that you become a multi-millionaire, or, a decamillionaire, you get $10 million. Let's say you're running businesses. Let's say you're super successful in some area. Would you expect that you're going to have, like, what kind of friends would that person have? They're going to be different. What's the chances that they're going to be the same friends that you had back at the beginning? It's very unlikely, right? It doesn't make sense. Same thing, even if you went down another road. Let's say you became an athlete. Let's say that you became a Olympic track and field runner, right? Your friends are going to be mostly Olympic track and field runners, right? They're going to be a different caliber. They're going to be a different kind of people, right? And it doesn't say anything about the intrinsic value of people. I think a lot of people are afraid to be, quote, sellouts, and afraid that they're turning their back on their friends, and they use the word loyalty all the time. And it has nothing to do with that. It doesn't mean that the person is less worthy or that you're judging them to be an inferior person, although sometimes that's the reason why you're ceasing to hang out with them. It just means that you're going down different paths. But then if you break it down further, now we could get to the point where it is actually the case. A lot of times your friends are going to be deadbeats, and they don't have any interest in growing themselves. They don't have any interest in seeing you grow, right? It's like the crabs in the bucket, right? From Stephen Pressfield's War of Art, one of my favorite quotes, he says, the greatest sin a crab can commit is to make a leap for the rim of the bucket. And in those cases, what's going to happen is that you're going to have to leave those guys behind, and they don't actually care about you. Like a true friend, right, is someone who says, you know what, like, you don't worry about me. Like, I'm fine. I'm cool. Like, you need to do what's going to be best for you. A true friend is someone who, when you have this great opportunity for a job or something that's going to better your life, that they say, don't even worry, man. Like, go to New York. Like, we're all cool. Like, I want you to like, and they don't even, they pretend like it doesn't even affect them. It doesn't hurt them at all, because they don't want to put any kind of external pressure on you. They want to see what's actually best for you. They don't call you a sellout. They don't do those things. So when you consider how a person acts, when you're trying to better yourself, when you're trying to do something better for yourself, when they treat you that way, you have to really question if they actually are a friend, are a true friend, right? And if you're acting as a true friend to someone. So, I'm kind of going in multiple directions here, but that's how I'd answer that, is to basically say that, like, look, you're going to have different friends as you go down different paths. You're also going to have deadbeat friends that are not true friends. And these are going to be the tests to see what a person's true character is, how they actually treat you. And do they actually care about you and your progress? Like, would you do the same for a true friend? And then third of all is that there's just going to be people that are not going to ever go down the path. They don't care. They're not going to grow themselves at all. And those are the people, again, I have some buddies growing up, great people. I love them, right? They're awesome. I don't hang out with them. They're my acquaintances. I love them. We're buddies. If I go out, there's certain places I'll go to, certain cities or something. We'll all hang out. We'll have a great time. But it doesn't. They're not my usual people. They're not the 5 people I hang around most. They're the people that, I care about these guys. They're great, but they're losers. So I'm not going to just hang out with them and do this just for the sense of, quote, loyalty. But at the same time, I'm not going to treat them like dirt, right? I'll be nice. I'll hang out with them every once in a while. But the people that I hang out on a regular basis are the people that I specifically have put into my life and have accepted into my life. And I'll tell you this, I'll say this one last thing. I know I'm going on a pretty long tangent on this because it is so critical, is the selection of friends that you have is probably one of the most important choices you can make in your life, because it will determine, probably more influential than your parents, more influential than your peers, your environment, the rest of your environment, who you become. And in just the act of surrounding yourself with the right people will make you or break you in your life. And so don't let guilt, don't let a false sense of loyalty or anything else make you stay down when you could be rising up. Don't let someone else you only have one life. You've got your shot at it. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel bad. Don't feel obligated, or that you have to have this false sense of loyalty to someone else, especially when they don't have your back as well. Like I said, which comes down to how they act when you're trying to make yourself better and you're trying to do something good for you. So, all right, that's my super long answer to that question.
Oh, I'll keep you going on a little bit. So what would you say to somebody, I don't know if this is Chris's question, but I kind of thought there was a little bit of a hint of, can I help them? Like, should I be trying to help them? What would you say in that case? Sort of like the missionary mindset, like, I want to rescue these people.
The biggest problem is that you cannot create self-motivation within a person. And it never works out, right? When you try and help someone that doesn't want to help themselves, right? And it's kind of like this, like, I mean, I've been in this situation plenty of times, right? I mean, here I am, right? I've had a lot of success in my life in a lot of areas, right? I've had success in business, in my career, in fitness, in writing, and in a lot of different areas, right? I'm pretty happy with the success I've had. I've got a lot of family. I've got a lot of friends. I've got a lot of relatives and stuff that all they would have to do is reach. I mean, they know that they've got, there's not a lot of people, again, I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or be braggadocious, but I'm just saying that, like, if when I were growing up, if I had an Uncle John, you know what I'm saying, that like did all this shit, I'd be like, man, like, let me go talk to John. Let me go figure this. Let me go ask him some questions. Let me go see if I can learn something, like, you know what I mean? And they're not, for the most part. I mean, some people do sometimes. I'm just saying, like, in general. And so you got to really, like, think like that's because most people don't actually care. They don't actually want to grow. They don't actually want to, I mean, the resource is there. Right. And so if I were to go around and try to force it down people's throat, be like, oh, you need to get a better job. Let me help you. Let me help you manage your finances. This is ridiculous, right? It doesn't go over very well. It doesn't, because, and the reason why I'm saying that is because the resource is right there. I'm right there. I will help someone that wants to help. That's in my family. That's in my, in the friendship kind of, distant relative, whatever, I mean, they've got access to me, but they're not taking advantage of that access. So it's the same type of thing, right? If you're doing your thing and you're living your life and you're like, suddenly, I mean, if you go, and some of you guys have done this, you were this fat, overweight, shy, lazy person, right? Like me, that's what I was at one point. And then you become this awesome fucking bulldog, and you become this better person. If those people are not now seeking you out and asking you how you did this and how they can do it as well, then what else? Then there's nothing else that you're going to do. Like, you're not going to, if they've seen this and they're not making that choice to actually ask you, then you can help them. Then believe me, then it's fine. But if they're not doing that, then they lack the motivation, and there's nothing that you're going to do. So the best thing you could do to help your friends that are in that position, in my opinion, is to be an example, right? Again, you could go back to the whole, in religious context, it's talked about all the time, be the example, be the light to the world, be the, right? I mean, so that people will ask you, why are you different? Or why do you act this way? Or, you know what I mean? So again, it doesn't have to be under a religious context. I'm just saying that you've heard that probably before. And it's the same thing here. It's like, if you, by example and your leadership, do not inspire, then it's not going to happen. Like, there's just people that, and for some reason or not, what I found too is some circumstance in life, I call it like the universe is calling. At some point, you wake up and certain people become, quote, awoken, or they have this urge to find out more, or to become more, or to live a better life, right? And they're not settling for that mediocre anymore. But you can't control that. It doesn't seem like anyone can. It just happens. And when they're ready, they're ready. And when they're not, there's no amount of convincing. There's nothing that you're going to do. You're just going to spoil relationships, waste your time, and get frustrated.
All right. Christopher has another comment here. Let's see. He says, it's like he's agreeing. And
Yep.
Cool. All right. So John, if you pop open, there's a Q&A. So for everyone, there's a Q&A feature. So we're sort of, some of it's happening in the chat, some of it's happening in Q&A. But John, so Max has a question in the Q&A, if you see that.
Let me see here.
It's kind of continuing in the same vein. I'm
looking to find the Q&A thing.
It's on the bottom. There's a...
Oh, there it is. Okay. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Q&A. Here we go. Open. Okay. And Max says, in continuation of your current question, I completely buy your point that once you, quote, level up, you get surrounded by, quote, high-level people. I'm currently a low level, just a job in an IT company, no super successful people among friends or acquaintances. Any course of action you can suggest to get myself among the, quote, high-level people without first becoming a multimillionaire or something like that? Basically, how do I surround myself with, quote, high-level people while I'm several dozen of levels below them? Thanks. Okay, so yeah, so this is a good question, right? And this is something that I've addressed definitely a few times. So he says, TDLR, how do I find an Uncle John to help me grow? So it comes down to this, I think, is that you don't really need to be around people that are super high level. So the amount of benefit that you're going to get, I'm not saying, okay, if you hang around Warren Buffett and, and his crew, or, Grant Cardone and some of these guys, or Gary Vee or whatever, although I don't think Josh would like to hang around Gary Vee much, but if you hang around some of these guys, you're going to get I'm not saying you're not going to get benefit, but you're going to get limited benefit for the, bang for the buck, right? What I mean is that the kind of problems that billionaires are discussing in their mastermind groups are not really that relatable to you. Does that make sense? So don't shoot for those right now. Like at some point, those would be useful to you. And again, like I said, if you're hanging around Warren Buffett, yes, some of that shit is going to rub off on you, and you're going to like learn some things, and you'll definitely it'll definitely accelerate your progress. But what I'm saying is that if you just find some people that are just a little bit above you, just a little one step above you, okay, in some regard. And see, this is where it comes to where it's key, right? Okay, your chances of hanging out with Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, they're zero. Why? What do you have to offer? You've got nothing to offer. The dudes, they have billions of dollars. If they need an expert, they hire an expert. They get the best person in the world to come live with them and teach them whatever they want to know. They have access. They can buy anything, right? There's nothing that you can really provide that they can't get with their money or their reputation. Okay, so you don't really have much to offer. Okay, but you take someone who, I don't know, maybe they're really good at a different programming language than you, right? If you're a developer, or maybe they're really good. Maybe they've got some fitness experience, right? Or some entrepreneurship experience, but you've got a different set of skills, and you've got, so they're technically a little bit above you, maybe in several areas, you know, maybe if we were keeping score, but you've got at least one or two things that they could use that are an advantage to them, right? You know, a good example of this is a lot of times when people go to developer conferences, right? They want to go and they want to network with all the speakers. And those speakers are a lot of times, they're too many levels above you, right? They're already the A-list celebrities. You need to be like networking with the C-list celebrities, the people that are up and coming, that are slightly above you, that have slightly more reputation, slightly more audience, have a slightly bigger brand than you. And those people are more accessible. They're more willing to talk to you. They're more willing to engage and become friends with you because you actually have something to offer them. Right. And those are the guys that are up and coming, that you see what I'm saying? And so you'll grow with them. So what I would say is that's what you do, is you kind of leapfrog your way little by little. And as you grow, you only need to find people that are able to teach you, to grow with you. And then eventually you reach the point where it makes sense to be in the Warren Buffett crowd. And you know, and I follow this exact advice. A lot of the people that I acquaint with, or, you know, hang around with, that they're people that probably, you know, 6-7 years ago, I would not have been in that circle at all. Like they would have been so far, like, and it wouldn't have mattered because it wouldn't have been as helpful, you know. So, you know, I could give you an example, like a good example would be someone like Pat Flynn, right? So I go to his meetup like once a month here in San Diego. And, you know, we exchange, you know, we can be more on a friendship level because now I have a successful business and, you know, we've got simple program and I'm doing all these things and I'm able to coach some of the entrepreneurs that come to that thing because I have experience and I've got but when I first started out, I listened to Pat Flynn's podcast and I didn't know what I was doing. I had no reason to, like, if I reached out to him, it's like, hey, dude, let's be friends. He's like, well, you know, you seem like a nice guy, but no, I don't think you. But now I have something to offer. You see what I'm saying? And so now, and I can learn from that because it's beneficial to me. So don't aim for the celebrities. Aim for the people that are just slightly above you and that you've got something to give. And then you just keep on working your way up. And as you grow, you just need to have people that are going to force you to grow a little bit more, right, than where you're at. And again, it kind of plays into what we said with the first question too, where that's why your friends are going to change. That's why your circles are going to change over time, is because as you level up, you're going to be looking for, you know, to add some people to the mix, to pull some people out of the mix, right? It's okay that it changes. And you understand the same thing, right? As other people are going in different directions, they're going to be doing the same things. It's not using people. It's synergy. It's the idea that, you know, you're exchanging value.
Cool. Yeah, I'll chime in on this one too a little bit because this is something I've done quite a bit, and it's actually pretty easy. Like Max, I don't know what area you're getting into, but like say you're in IT now, you want to get into iOS development. There are, you know, it's pretty easy to figure out who are sort of the C-list celebrities that John was talking about. You know, who are the bloggers, who are the YouTubers that are gaining some traction. And honestly, those people will love to talk to you because they're hungry. Like just for at that stage, I mean, John, when you were starting Simple Programmer, how excited were you when somebody left a comment, early on?
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, it's like, you're like hungry for that user interaction or the reader interaction. And so it's actually, just go to their site, comment on their blogs, get on their mailing lists, get, and just have a dialogue with them. It's actually, and since they're pretty much learning this stuff along with you, it's not that intimidating at all.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's when to contact those people, right? Again, it's like, it doesn't like it, like I get a ton of people that are like, hey, could you give me a call like now? And I'm like, like I'm busy, man. Like I got like thousands of people are asking for my time. Not like, but back then, like Josh said, when I was first starting out, when I first started the blog, like if you would have seen me at a conference and be like, hey, let's go get something to eat and let's, I mean, not that I won't ever do that now. I'm just saying though, that like you would have had that much more access. But again, I would have been at a different level, right? And that's the people to go after. I totally agree with what Josh said.
Oh, yeah. So Max said he's in IT now, wants to get into into consultancy. So you want to have an IT consulting business, Max? It sounds like Max is currently using the question and answer box as the chat box, but that's okay. We love you, Max. Yeah, I mean, so find out, like find out who are the people that are doing that. I mean, there's going to be lots of IT consultants out there. There's going to be people that are teaching IT consultants how to get started in their businesses. Those would be really good people to get to know. So,
yeah, and even people that are doing other kinds of consultancies that are not competitive. So in fact, that might be a really good one, because sometimes you're like, oh, well, I can't contact these other IT consultants. They're my competition. They don't want to help me. And I mean, I think that's a lot of times that's not true. Like I'll help anyone who is like, I don't see anyone as competition, but maybe that's the case. If that's the case, then guess what you find? You find the consultant that is a dog training consultant, or a beauty consultant, or, there's something maybe even a little bit closer, and they have the same problems. They have to get customers. They have to market, right? It's the same, you know what I mean? And you get that value, and they're going to share, and they want to, and now at this point, they don't even see you as quote lower level. You're just another, you know what I mean? Because they don't know what level you are in IT consultancy. They just know that you're also a consultant as well, and you can share, and they'll be able to share things with you, and you can share with them, and that works out well as well. So yeah, actually, that kind of cross-pollination is actually great, because you'll take something that works really well in the dog training consultancy niche and use it in IT, and it'll blow people's minds. Yeah.
And so that's because you'll be outside of the norms, and you'll stand out. All right, so let's see. I'm gonna ask. So I sent out an email today asking for whether people were having any issues with self-confidence, and because we're going to be talking about self-confidence a lot in this coming month. And so I got a few questions back, John. So I'm going to read one of them here. So if you guys have other questions, go ahead and you can either put them in the chat or use the Q&A feature. That's pretty nice. It helps me keep track of what we haven't answered yet. But I'm going to. So Nathan writes in. He says, sometimes I feel I know less than others, and that affects my confidence during interviews and when I give presentations. I need a significant switch in the way that I approach things mentally. Eventually, I realize that nobody knows anything at all, and that we are all just faking it till we make it. But by then, it's too late. So it sounds like he comes into situations and he basically blows it, and then eventually he realizes that, oh, you know what? I wasn't really that bad off. Like I kind of had what I needed, and but by that point, it's too late. So any advice for that type of situation?
Yeah, I'd say, okay, so the big thing is, I mean, there's definitely, starting at the very basics, right? If you want to have confidence at something, know it well. That definitely will give you confidence, right? So if you're going to do a meeting or you're going to talk about a subject, right, or you're going to get on stage, you have to know that subject well. A lot of times the reason why I can come across very well in my YouTube videos, and you can tell the ones where I don't know what I'm talking about as much, but the ones where I do, it's because I've thought about this a lot, right? I've sat in bed at night and thought about a lot of philosophical questions. I've pre-thought about all of these answers. A lot of times when someone asks me a question, I've got 5 hours worth of content to answer because I've already thought about this stuff. I already have knowledge in this area and expertise, or I've read 100 books on the subject, right? So having knowledge is good for confidence. But aside from that, here's what's important. And you're right, to some degree, nobody knows anything. We're all kind of faking it to make it. I think that's true to a large degree, that a lot, basically, the way I'd say that it's just a matter of perception. And that perception is one way of looking at the material fact, which is that most people, we're all human, we all bleed. We're all struggling with the same things, with confidence, with feeling like we're not good enough, with imposter syndrome. And so you might think, like, your perception might be that you're the idiot and other people know more than you, and they're not struggling with any of this stuff, where in reality, they're struggling. They also have issues of confidence. They also don't want to look like an idiot and whatnot. So I think that's it's a way of looking at that material fact. That is, I wouldn't say that necessarily that nobody knows anything or that they're all faking it to make it, but that's one way of seeing that base material fact, which is the fact that we all are struggling with these same issues. With that said, one thing that I have found that's really important is to speak with conviction always. Even when you lack a certain level of knowledge, take the knowledge that you have, take the best the idea that you could formulate and speak it with conviction. Now, I talk about this. There's this idea of strong convictions loosely held, right? Strong beliefs loosely held, right? And that's the way that you should operate. But as long as you have the knowledge or you have the facts and your best conclusion is this is true or this is X or this is the way, then preach it, brother, like it is the way. And then when someone comes in to say, hey, wait a minute, hold on. No, you got your story wrong. Like, this is why what you're saying is not true, blah, blah, blah. And then you hear it. Then you say, okay, interesting. I was wrong. But that doesn't matter. So now you're preaching the new way. Okay. And that's not flip flop. It's not, it's just simply saying that when I'm going to speak something, I'm going to share it with conviction to the best of my knowledge. That knowledge can be updated at a different time. It's fine. But that's where, again, you're going to come across with confidence, and you can know that this is the best course of action that you could take. One thing I'd say also, I've been having this discussion a lot lately, and just something to keep in mind. I think this will help a lot of people. Is a lot of people have imposter syndrome, right? And imposter syndrome says that I'm not good enough, right? That I'm representing something that I'm not. I don't have imposter syndrome anymore. I've had it at times. I have delusions of grandeur. I think I'm much better than I am. And that might sound a little bit like ridiculous and cocky and arrogant or whatever, but I'll tell you what, if I think I'm God on earth, I think I'm awesome, I think I'm the man, and I fall a little bit short of that serves me a lot better than if I think I'm shit and I'm an imposter and I suck and I'm just lucky to be here. I'm going to hit a lot lower target. You see what I'm saying? I'd rather you have delusions of grandeur and think you're the hottest shit to walk the planet and just like act that way. I mean, obviously, taper it down a little bit, but in your mind, you think that you are the shit. Okay. That's going to give you the confidence. That's going to give you the success. That's going to convince other people of the same, because they're only going to believe what they see. Right. And it's going to make you feel better about yourself instead of feeling like shit and like an imposter all the time. And again, it'll be an inflated perception of yourself, but you're going to hit a lot higher targets when you do that. So that's what I would say is swap that out. Swap out that mindset instead of worrying about being good enough. Give yourself an inflated ego for a little bit. Change that around. I think people are worried about having too inflated of an ego, but in reality, too many people have too much of a deflated ego, and that's what makes them defensive, is because they can't withstand any attack on it. But guess what? if I think I'm the shit and I just know it and I just feel it, like there's not much, I don't need to be defensive. Because if you're like, no, John, you're not the shit. I'm like, nah, you don't even know. You don't even know, man. You don't even know, right? Because you can't, I don't need to be defensive. I'm happy. I'm good. I'm feel good about myself. It's a better way to live your life, right? Again, you know, I'm not saying to just be a cocky, arrogant asshole all the time, but I am saying that that's a so much better way to just be. And the confidence problem kind of solves itself when you do that.
Cool. All right, so let's see. I have one other one here that is pretty interesting. So this is from Rick, and Rick says, it's kind of along the same lines. I definitely struggle with my self-confidence. I'm a self-taught front-end developer. I work at a fairly large company with about 150 developers and engineers. I'm grateful I was able to break into the field, especially at a company with so many intelligent people. I definitely feel imposter syndrome, though. I've been here almost 2 years. I've always been able to figure out almost any task, but I don't get too many tasks that really challenge me. They go to the more senior members on the team. I also often just don't feel educated enough to even participate in some of the conversations we have at work around technologies. A lot of it is really just not feeling educated enough. I can do my work, but just feel super inexperienced even after doing this a couple of years.
So the biggest thing I'd say is here, you know, I think there's a lot of ways to talk about this. What we just talked about, what I just talked about would be an adequate answer to a lot of this issue. But let me give you a different one here, which would be this, which is ask questions, right? This would be actually swallow the ego a little bit. In fact, you know, true real self-esteem, true real self-confidence comes from not caring what other people think, which means that you don't care if you appear to be less intelligent or less knowledgeable. You'll ask questions. And if you start asking the questions, that's going to insert you into the dialogues and into the debates. And you're probably going to find that you know more than you think. You're probably going to find that people are going to respect you for asking the questions that you don't know the answers to, and you're going to learn much faster, right? Anytime you're in an environment where you feel like you're having trouble treading water, you need to be asking questions. You need to be going to the senior engineers and saying, hey, you know, I'm not understanding this, or, you know, can I look at this problem with you? I'd like to learn, right? You're going to have to eat some humble pie in that case, but that's going to help you. That's going to help you in the long run, right? Because I could tell you things that would give you a fake confidence boost. I think more of the first answer, but underlying, you still have to have what you're talking about, right? I mean, like it's one thing to like go around and thinking you're the shit without having the backup of it, right? I mean, I think when I go around, when I'm telling people to think that they're the shit, it's because I'm assuming you're doing the work. Okay, if you're not actually doing the work, that advice doesn't work. That advice will get you into trouble, right? But what I'm saying is that I'm assuming you're doing the work. So, and that's the thing also, I think, is that have confidence, even if you have confidence in your current ability or level, right? Have confidence in your ability to learn and grow, right? This is a really good book on this, is by Carol Dweck, called Mindset, the New Psychology of Success, right? And so that's a good book to read, because people either have a fixed or growth mindset. And if you got a fixed mindset, you think you're so intelligent, or, you know, whatever it is, what level that you're at, or you are this, or you are that. You put these labels on yourself, and that's just who you are. If you have a growth mindset, you believe that you can grow and that you can evolve and change, and you can become whatever you want to become if you put in the work and the time and the effort. And so if you have that growth mindset, that's going to help you in those cases, because you don't have to have confidence in what you are right now. You just have your confidence to get there, right? I mean, I'm not supposed to be running marathons. I'm 220 pounds, okay? I have fast twitch muscles fibers, right? I don't have the slow twitch muscle fiber. I mean, obviously I've got some, but guess what? I started doing it because I know that regardless, maybe I have to train harder than everyone else. Okay, maybe it's harder to push around 220 pounds. Maybe I'll have to do more mileage, and maybe I'll have to be more strict on my diet, and maybe I'll have to be like super lean at that level in order to be able to compete. But I know that if I put in the miles, if I run 50-mile weeks, if I do 20-mile runs, that I'll be able to run 26.2 miles in 2 weeks when I need to do that. And so I didn't have confidence in myself being a distance runner. I'm by nature not a distance runner, but I have confidence in my ability to adapt and my body to adapt if I put it under the correct pressure. So the same thing here, right? You don't have to have confidence in your current abilities, but have confidence in your ability to grow and learn, right? And if you are focused on growing and learning, and you figure out what you need to grow and learn in by asking the right questions, you will get there. Have 100% confidence in that, because unless your IQ is like well below 100, you will succeed in that if you put in the effort and the work.
Cool. So I got a couple more questions here. These are from Catherine, who sent them to me by email. So
okay.
Just got all the channels going here. No one's Skyped me yet, so that's good. That channel's open if anyone's going for it. All right, so first topic, these are good. So can you talk about the risk of becoming obsolete as a programmer due to big picture technology shifts that cause disruptions in the industry? I'm talking about hard skills that become obsolete. We know that soft skills are transferable regardless of the technology environment or the specific job market.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so do hard skills become obsolete? Absolutely they do, but the underlying knowledge of them doesn't, right? So I deal with this a lot of times with a lot of my coaching clients, right? Because when I coach people now, I tell them, right, I've talked about, a lot of you that have been following me for a while, you know, I talk about niching down. And I no longer tell people for their building their personal brand and their audience to niche down. I tell them to pick the niche so specific that they can be number one best in the world, right? And that's what, I don't want you to do anything that you're not going to be number one best in the world at, if that's going to be what your specialty is. And so with that, right, the biggest problem I get is, well, what if that technology changes or goes away, or that, like, you know what I mean? I've got one guy that's involved in cryptocurrency, in a very specific area of cryptocurrency. And he's like, well, I've become this guy, and I build this business, and I build this following, and I get all this skills and this expertise. And then there's a new different blockchain. There's a new cryptocurrency. There's a new, right? And this one fades away, and I lose all that. And my answer is, whoa, wait a minute. Hold on, dude. Listen, if you build this audience, if you learn this skill set, it's not like it's just going to overnight get wiped out, right? I mean, heck, COBOL programmers are still, they're making bank right now, okay? COBOL programmers, okay? So they're going to be around for a long, long time, okay? There's no such thing as like a Black Tuesday in technology where all of a sudden, I mean, I guess the closest thing that we would say is like, the closest two events that I could say was when Microsoft got rid of Silverlight, okay? And maybe when Apple announced Swift, okay? But both of those things, I've got examples there. So a good friend of mine, John Papa, was the Silverlight expert. You know, some of you guys probably know him. And he became the single page application, the SPA guy. But if you notice, it's very similar to the technology, right? The Silverlight stuff was basically simple single page applications. You know, it's very similar, but he had the audience, and he kind of shifted into this when that happened, okay? And he was able to take that with him, and he's able to take like all the skills that he learned in becoming a Silverlight developer and building an audience and becoming an evangelist and all this stuff. And again, I know we're kind of mixing soft skills and hard skills, but even the hard skills that he learned, they still carried over, and he had the time to prepare. And if you look at like iOS developers that developed an Objective-C, they're still developing an Objective-C. It's still fine, even though Swift is out, but they can use that, and they can use that knowledge of the iOS framework and how that the phones work, and that still transfers over to Swift, right? It's not exactly the same thing, but the point is this, and you know, with my coaching clients, the same thing is like, the shift is going to happen, and it's good, but it's going to be gradual, and everyone else is going to be going there too. So if you're the dinosaur that is adamant on just sticking with your programming language, you're not going to learn anything new, okay, and you're not going to pay attention to the trends, you're not going to pay attention to the direction that the technology is evolving and going, and what's dying, then yes, then you're screwed, okay? If you just think that you're going to, I got my certification, I got my degree, okay, I know how to program in C++ or whatever it is, you know, programming language or technology, and you're not going to learn and adapt and see where the things are going and learn with that, then yes, then you're going to get left behind and it's going to become absolute. But as long as you have your head slightly above water, as long as you're paying attention, as long as you're like learning the new things and seeing where things are going, right? I mean, JavaScript developers is a perfect example, I think, today, right? If you just, I mean, there's Node.js developers, right? But a lot of Node.js developers sort of, they're moving in different directions now, right? I don't know what the most popular is now, but what was the one that Facebook put out? I'm not
React or
React, right? So a lot of them are moving to React, right? Or like, I mean, and maybe you can do both, or I don't know. But my point is that it's been moving different directions, right? And people that are with that technology that are not me, obviously, they're actually following it and following the direction that it's going and going that direction with everyone else. So as long as you're willing to do that, don't worry, right? Just learn your skill as best as you can, and then as things are evolving and changing and people are going different places, go there with them and transfer that skill over, because everyone is in the same, I think the thing to remember is that all these people are in the same place, right? Everyone's at it's a level playing field here in regards to that, is that like, if a technology becomes obsolete, everyone who's learning that technology has to move somewhere else. And again, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not like all of a sudden it's like, okay, thou shalt not program in COBOL anymore. It doesn't happen that way. The writing was on the wall. If you chose to ignore the writing on the wall and you got left behind and you don't have a new valuable skill set, that's your own fault.
All right. So Catherine also asks, can you talk about finding a way to fit one's personality and approach to life into a group of colleagues or clients or fellow contractors where there is diversity of life stages, backgrounds, experiences? Thanks for any insights. By the way, I'm an over 50 woman who is changing careers after a long career in technology sales and several years as a freelance web developer. Now working on getting my first junior programming job, still working through the tools in the coding interview boot camp. Awesome. Thinking about how to be part of the team with anticipated 20-something and 30-something colleagues who will most likely be males, who will likely be a lot more experienced as programmers, but might hesitate to mentor me because I remind them of their mom, etc.
I think that's kind of interesting. That could be, you could be like the cool mom, the cool grandma. Like, I think in situations like that where, okay, so I mean, my classic thing was, heck, I was always the token Indian guy, right? I mean, I would hang out like, it would be like whenever I worked at different places, especially contracting jobs, there'd be like all the Indian guys and then the Indian testing girls, because it was the females were always the testers and the guys were the developers, right? And, I'm not saying this to be racist or sexist. I'm just saying this is just how it ended up happening, right? They'd all be like, they'd go for lunch and they'd have their Indian food and they'd all hang out together in their clique, right? And, and then I just kind of like showed up and infiltrated that. I was like, hey, I want to go to the Indian restaurant with you guys. Let's go. Like, what I mean? And I was the cool, like, token Indian guy, right? Because I integrated myself into that and they accepted me because I didn't feel, I made it not awkward, right? I made it just like, hey, I'm here. It's cool. Let's hang out. Let's have a good time. Let's, and it started to kind of break that up and to make it more diverse, where other people I invited to join us that were non-Indian guys, right, for lunch and whatnot. And then they would come out and stuff. So you just got to be that person that just goes in there and just doesn't care, right? That is almost like colorblind to people's ages and skin and sex and just goes in and just acts like everything's normal. If you act like everything's cool and you're just having a good time and you're not making something awkward, it won't be awkward. People, one of the things that we have as human beings is what's called mirror neurons, right? And what it does is it allows us to do two things, mirror neurons. One of them is that we can duplicate things that we see people do, right? So we can learn just by watching people. But the other thing that it does is it allows us to be able to pick up the emotions that other people are putting down, right? So what that means is that if you go into a situation and you feel like it's awkward and you feel nervous about it and you feel weird being the old woman who might be their mother, right? Then they're going to feel that too. And they're going to feel that weirdness because of those mirror neurons. But if you go in there and you act like everything's normal and it's just cool and you're not awkward at all about it because it's just fine, then they will feel that as well, and they will accept that. So I think the easiest way to overcome these kind of problems is to not make them a problem, right? Don't make things awkward. Don't make, and again, it's probably easier said than done, but you got to be the person that breaks down the lines, that goes in and just doesn't worry about this stuff, and you'll make everyone else feel comfortable, right? A lot of times my strategy in situations like that is I'm just trying to make everyone feel comfortable. If I make everyone feel comfortable, if we're all laughing or we're having jokes, and we can bring this stuff out right on the table, and then you can even make joke about it, right? I mean, one way to disarm sort of anxiety and what would I call it? Like repression of, because people know what they're like to, when the air is thick and you can cut it with a knife, it's to say the obvious, right? To call out the elephant in the room. So maybe you joke and you're like, hey, I'm like your mom. I'm like it's like you're teaching coding to your mom, because that's what maybe they feel like. And then you've called it out, and now it's cool. Now it's fine, because you've called it out. You've identified the elephant in the room, and that brings the whole anxiety level, the whole tension level down, right? It's a really good technique for that. So it's really, again, comes down to just being comfortable, not making it a big deal, and then it doesn't become a big deal.
Last question from Catherine here. She says, someone recommended I watch Silicon Valley to understand the culture of programming teams. Do you know any other shows or movies that realistically portray the day-to-day life and relationships of programmers, freelancers, contractors, or permanent employees in today's environment? Can you discuss specific situations you have experienced to break through the preconceptions and build professional relationships to support career growth? And okay, yeah, that's it. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a TV watcher, but my answer is almost the same as the answer that I just gave, which is don't make a big deal about it. Don't worry about it. Just get in there and just don't worry about this kind of stuff. Like don't worry about what is the culture of this and what is the programmer culture, because you're trying to fit in. Then don't try and fit in. You're not going to fit in, right? The thing is, you are you. And if you don't make that a problem and you make that a fun thing and it's awesome, I mean, then it's going to be cool, right? It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. But if you try to fit in, then it's going to be weird. Everyone's going to know that you're trying to fit in. You're trying to pretend like you're this, right? I mean, if everyone's talking about video games and you've never played video games, if that's not your, then, and you start trying to okay, I'll give you a perfect example, right? I don't watch any sports. Okay. More than once I've been trapped in conversations where someone's like, hey, did you see the game last night? And I stupidly say yes. Okay. And then they're like going off and they're like, oh, did you see that? He did this and this. And I'm like, yeah. And I try to say something and it's just pretty damn obvious, right? It's better if I just say, I don't watch any sports, man, but no, tell me about what happened. And then he tells me something. I'm like, oh, okay. So is this guy good or something? Or you know what I mean? And I'm not playing like I'm part of the culture or know it. I'm literally just, okay, hey, I'm cool. I'll hear what you want to talk about. Sure. It's cool. But I don't know anything about it. It's not part of my thing, but I'm interested to find out about this interesting thing that you do watching sports and why you do it. Right. So, you see what I'm saying? That's what you want to avoid is being the person that when someone asks you, do you watch sports, and you don't, you say yes, because then you're screwed. And that's what you're doing if you come in there and try to adopt someone's culture that you don't understand. It's kind of weird. It's like walking into a Japanese restaurant in Japan and trying to speak like someone who's Japanese, or trying to act like someone. Don't do it. You're an American. Just go in there and be an American, or whatever, whatever nationality you are. It's going to make things a lot less awkward.
Yeah, one other thought, I think that there's probably a percentage of people that you're going to meet that are going to actually think it's really cool what you're doing, that you're changing careers. And, I think those people will kind of help you, because, there's definitely in programming, there's definitely people that are difficult to work with, but there's a lot of people that are just will be really excited to see you, coming into this and, and changing your life. Cause programmers love to see that, that constant learning. So I think it's going to be a lot more welcoming than you think going in. So Michael asks, if the economy tanks, how do you think the programming world will be affected? Is it more resilient than other industries?
So I don't have a crystal ball, Michael, but I can tell you this. This is my strategy for life. And I talked about this when I was talking about like how to succeed with a boot camp. I've never been to a programming boot camp, but I know how I would succeed. I'd be the number one person in the damn class. That's the person getting the job. Okay. So same thing. Okay. You're a programmer. Be the top. Be good. Put in the work. Put in the effort. Right. Have the best technical and soft skills that you possibly can. And guess what happens if the economy tanks? Yes. Okay. If the economy tanks, maybe the bottom 50% of programmers are going to have a hard time finding jobs, but the top 10% is never, they're never going, it doesn't matter how bad the economy gets, the top 10% is never going to have a hard time finding a job. They're still going to be demanding outrageous salaries. It doesn't matter, right? The best, I mean, think of it this way, right? Economy tanks. Do the top NBA players stop making bank money? No, they don't. They keep making money, right? It doesn't matter, right? So what you want to do is not worry about whether the economy tanks or not, or will that affect programming jobs in general. In any of those things, just try and be the best. If you are the best, you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about anything, right? So if you're going to do something, be good at it, right? Be the best at it. Aim to be of the higher echelon, and you won't have to worry. Now, if you're just starting out, you might be like, well, I'm just starting out and so, okay, it's fine. It's going to take some time to get there, but be on that path and have that as a goal and get there. And then, and you'll deal with the problems as they come along. But I guarantee you, the best of the best, and this is why also that I emphasize so much on marketing yourself, right? And building a community and getting with other people and like building a reputation in the software development industry is because if you're known, if you have a blog, if you have, other people that that are high level, that are experts, right? If that's your crew that you're hanging around with, and the people that are in here or watching this you guys are probably there because you're exceptional, right? Then you're not going to have a problem. You're going to have a lot less of a problem. So the best strategy is to be the best. And I know that's easier said than done, but you got to outwork everyone. You got to put in the effort, and there's a huge advantage to having that because you don't have to worry about anything. It's like the same thing as like having enough money in your checkbook. We never have to balance a checkbook. I like that. Like everyone should strive to do that. It's worth it. Anyone can do that. And once you do that, you've just eliminated a huge amount of stress from your life. So same thing here. If you know that when I was, doing software development and I was, at the top of my game, I knew that I could get a job tomorrow. It didn't matter what was going to happen. I knew that I was a somewhat famous programmer. I knew that there's no problem, that I'm never going to have an issue in my life getting a job. So I didn't have to worry about all that stuff. I didn't have to, worry what was going to happen with the economy or, what if the Democrats take over? What if the Republicans take over? I didn't have to worry about or ask those questions.
Yeah, Michael followed up and said he is just starting out, but he'll stay on the path.
Yeah, and if you have that on your mind, Michael, if you're planning to become the best, you'll get there, right? You get there. It's good that you're part of the community because you're going to find allies along the way, and get your blog up, man. Get it up. Start doing that. Start marketing yourself. Start doing the stuff that other people won't do, and you'll be there for sure.
Do you have any other, so what other, the blogging is good. What other things, what are some things he could prioritize early in this journey since he's just starting out that would be good bang for the buck?
Good bang for the buck. Definitely getting the blog and sharing your journey, right? Or doing something like a YouTube channel, that would be great as well, and teaching what you're learning, because you're going to build up that collection of content. What you've already done here, joining the community, because you're going to be able to have answers and other people that are going to be that one level above you, right? You're going to have access to all those people, and that's going to help you out. And then really like picking a specialty to niche down in that you could apply to your blogging, your YouTubing, and marketing yourself, of course, as well, but also that you're just learning and learning that expertise. Because here's the thing, right? If you pick something that you're going to really focus on, you can become the expert, like, even number one best in the world in like a year, if it's a small enough slice. I know that doesn't seem like it, but there's not a lot of people that are like really, really dedicated to, I'm going to pull out like and hibernate specific, like binding issue, or you know what I mean? Like if you pick something that's very, very specific and very narrowly focused, and you write about that thing, like you could become the expert of that, and that's going to be extremely valuable. And you'll be able to talk and tell, like you can bypass these levels of, yes, you still have to bring up your basic programming knowledge. Yes, you still have to bring up your experience. Yes, you have to do that. But you kind of get this little like shortcut, this little fast pass if you're a super expert in one little niche area. And that's just a super fast way to get there, right? You know, and you see this all the time, right? You see this all the time where these people just show up in the radar, and it's like, you know, like I don't know if you guys follow the fasting, but Dr. Jason Fung, right? He just all of a sudden sprung up as the fasting doctor, right? Because he studied that one little area. It didn't take him very long to build up this reputation, right? He didn't have to spend years and years studying about fasting. There were a lot of other people that knew about fasting and had studied it longer, but because he was able to specifically niche down on that and to use fasting to cure diabetes, right? That became the thing, and he was able to accelerate his growth there. So if you pick something small enough and niche down, that's going to help. And again, it's going to help with all your marketing and everything. That's why so much of the thing I talk about is niching down.
Christopher asks a completely different question. Have either of you ever used Lulu, the ebook maker, or do you rely more on Adobe Suite designed ebooks?
I have neither used either one of them, but I'll tell you what, why are you doing this work yourself? Just pay someone to do this. It's so damn cheap to hire someone to make an ebook for you. If you write it, yes, you write it. Okay. And then you have someone, there's like Fiverr jobs to make an ebook. I mean, it might not be the most quality thing from the Fiverr job, although there's some good ones now. And most Fiverr jobs are not $5 anymore. They're like $50. Don't get me on that shit. But anyway, like I wouldn't, unless you're actually an ebook designer, Christopher, which maybe you are. If so, then you could probably answer your own question on this. But if you're not, then let the expert do it. And heck, just work a few more hours as a programmer to pay for that, rather than, you know, unless this is your passion and you love designing ebooks, again, then maybe you should be an ebook designer. But for a lot of things, the answer is pay someone to do it, pay the expert.
Yeah, you can use something like, I mean, I used LeanPub for a long time. John's used it too. Mm-hmm. And it's a really easy way to generate, like, I mean, you're not doing any of the work of converting files. It's just, you're writing in Markdown and it gets generated out to a PDF and like an EPUB file. But yeah, you don't want to be messing with that. I learned this the hard way because I helped John with the launch of the career guide. And there are so many different requirements for Amazon and CreateSpace and everything. It's so much better. Like there's people that this is all they do and they're not that expensive. So yep. Definitely go that route.
No, there's okay. It's not a stupid. It's a great question.
Not a stupid question.
It's not stupid at all. I mean, this is an important. I think it brought out an important answer, which is a lot of times like we're solving the wrong problem, and money solves a whole multitude of problems. It's true. I mean,
there were people that were using Microsoft Word to generate some of the books, and it's fine. Like I mean, if you know how to do it, the tool doesn't really matter that much if you know how to do it. So the end product ends up being pretty similar. So that is the end of the questions that I'm seeing so far. So let's I'll put that out there. Does anybody have any more questions? We can maybe hang out. Oh, there we go. Max says, regarding sharing your learning journey in a blog, I've always felt that it's futile to share how you learn skill X because what you learn is basic stuff, so why share it?
So I get this a lot. There's a couple of things I would say here, Max. First of all, there's this, which is that it's not what you learn, it's how you think and how you communicate that. And really, when you're first starting out in the blogging process, right, or any kind of sharing process, it's for you. No one's reading that shit anyway, okay? No one's reading your blog when you're first starting out, okay? But it's for you because you're putting your thoughts on paper, you're organizing your thoughts, okay? And you're learning how to become a more effective communicator, okay? And it's a history, a record of your progress over time, right? So that's the first thing I would say. And then the second thing is that, yes, people will eventually start reading your blog, and they're going to be the people that are at the level that you're at, that are learning along with you. And it helps them to see that there's someone else who doesn't know this. Not everyone's an expert. Sometimes, in fact, the reason why I created my blog originally, why Simple Programming even exists, why it was called Making the Complex Simple, was because I was sick of every single developer saying that they're an expert and it's all really hard and this is all complicated stuff, right? And I was like, no. This is simple. Like, everything is simple when you break it down. Stop trying to make this harder and more prestigious than it is. It's not some great freaking skill that you guys have being programmers, like, and being high level senior developers. Yes, there's skill involved. Yes, but it's not quite as difficult as you were making it out to be. And so that's the thing, is like, don't get fooled by that. And a lot of people are writing from that level. They're writing from the talk down to you level. When you're the guy that's starting out and is learning, and you're like, I'm just sharing this, I don't even know, like, this is what I came up with, right? So, some people, they're going to appreciate that, and they're going to grow and learn from that better than the person that's talking down to them all the time. And you're also going to get some feedback from people that know the answer, that are going to say, no, you're wrong, this is why. And that's going to be good. And that's going to facilitate some learning for you, because you're going to get the internet correcting you. Okay. And which is not always a good thing, but it can be a good thing when you're starting out and you are wrong.
It can be painful.
Right? Yeah. But so I think there's a lot of reasons to do it, and don't just assume, and also the final thing I would say is that you're Max. You're different than John Sonmez or Joe or Josh or any of, right? You have a different personality. You have a different background, the way that you present things, right? Some people, they hate my guts. Like, they get on my YouTube channel and they literally send me death threats, and they literally just hate me. Okay. But other people are like, John is awesome. He's the man. I'll do whatever John says. That's what I'll do. Right. I just want to be John. Okay. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, so some people will, I'm teaching the same thing, right? As far as personal development and career development, as some people would tell you the same thing, right? Maybe Tony Robbins is saying a very similar thing. Maybe, to some degree, Gary Vaynerchuk is saying a similar thing, or Grant Cardone is, or I could list a number of people, but they have different voices. Okay. And so even though, ultimately, like, the underlying truth of the universe and wisdom is pretty universal, right? It's like, there's some basic principles and laws that govern the world. We share it in different ways. Okay. And so it's the same thing even with programming. It's the way that you approach the problem. It's the way that, that connects with someone, that they understand that you have a similar background. There's a multitude of reasons, why we like different people, and if that weren't the case, it'd be really interesting, like, breeding as human beings. If everyone's like, no, it's out of, like, people have different preferences and tastes, right? We'd all eat the same food. We'd all, like, want the same mate, right? We'd all, like, that's not the case, right? That's why we have this variety. And so don't worry, right? And yes, there's 100,000 answers to the same question out there on the internet, but it shouldn't stop you from doing things, right? I'm not going to not run a marathon because I'm not going to win it. I know I'm not going to win it. I'm not the best. I'm not going to beat the Kenyan dude that runs it in 2 hours. Okay. In 2 hours and 2 minutes. But it doesn't matter. I'm going to run my race. So run your race, make your blog.
One of our members, I'm blanking on his name at the moment, but he lives in somewhere in the Midwest, and he's kind of taken on the mantle of the rural programmer. So he's got, like, his blog is this combination of technology and rural living. Nice. And it's really interesting. I mean, it's like, so, there's things in your background like that, Max, where you're going to be different. That's going to resonate with some people. For me, that actually resonates because I grew up out in the boonies. And, for a lot of people that wouldn't really be all that interesting to them. But for me, so you're going to have that same type of stuff in your background, and you bring your personality to it. And it makes you stand out. It makes you memorable.
Yep.
Cool. I'm not seeing any more questions. Anybody? Last call here.
And don't take this the wrong way, Max. We're not harping on you for like, we love you. We love you, Max. So we're just like, sometimes I get a little enthusiastic when I'm talking, but you know, I'm not angry at you. So.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we can wrap it here then.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. It's been fun. It's always fun to talk about these things. So.
Yep. Great questions.
Yeah, and ask questions, you know, in the forum, in the community area, and, you know, engage and help other people if you can. If you know the answer, don't worry. Like, just give your opinion. It's fine. Like, you know, someone will tell you you're wrong if you're wrong on the internet, but it's fine. This is what it's about, right? You don't have to be like the smartest person. Like, go ahead and try and answer someone's question. This is what you think about it, and you know, that's my advice I'd give you. And people will appreciate that. And I'll tell you this also, you know, just real quick for you guys that are here, is if you're in the community, right? Like, and we're growing. I mean, we got like 350 people now in there. If you're the person answering a lot of questions and you're the person contributing a lot, you're going to get noticed a lot. And there's some pretty high profile people in there. And so, especially if you're starting out and you're looking for jobs and you're looking for the right connections, like being the person that is like engaging and active and showing up on all the posts, that's gonna be good. It's gonna be something good, you know, for sure. That's how I would be playing this game if I were you. So
yeah, communities like these are small. Like, so it's the community's still very small. Don't take that as small, like that there's not a lot of impact there, because you all paid $99 to be here, or, you know, maybe you came in through the boot camp. So you've all paid to be here. So 350 people who have all paid a not insignificant amount of money to be together is 10 times more valuable than a 10,000 member forum where people just kind of drive by it once a month. Okay. It's a completely different dynamic. So, you know, if you become well known in this community as it grows, it's much bigger than you might think just based on the sheer numbers.
Yep.
Michael says, it means you guys are more accessible too. Yes, that is true.
It's true. Yeah.
So.
All right, cool.
Awesome. Oh, wait, we got another question from Max.
Let me see.
We'll let him.
And another question, any specific tips on implementing the stuff in the Bulldog mindset, but basically tomorrow, Tuesday morning, how do I reforge that good general philosophy into more specifics? So, you know, I mean, yeah, more specific actions. The Bulldog mindset book, or the you know, how to stop being lazy book, is definitely more on the motivational side, right? It is not the you know, purely actionable advice. It's to get you in the mindset to think about these things, right? So, but now is where your job comes in, is to actually come up with the actions, right? To figure out, well, what can I do, right? How can I actually execute this plan? And this is one thing, in fact, it's on my Kanban board for this week for me to do, which is visualize your new self. It's literally on my Kanban board. I'm staring at it right now. It says, you know, visualize new ideal self. Okay. I do this every once in a while. Right. And so after reading something like that, and you're like, you should do something like that. And I do it every once in a while because I want to know now, like, okay, I've actualized who I am now, right? I'm this John. Now, where's the next John that I want to become? Right. And what are the steps I need to take and the actions I need to take in order to get there? So if you just sit down and you spend an hour visualizing the max that you want to become, that will answer your question. Because once you know what you're trying to do, the problem is people don't know what they're trying to do and what they're trying to become, so they don't know how to get there, which makes sense, right? But when you know the max that you need to become, super max, okay, then you will know what the steps are to get there, because that path will be, and it might not be like crystal clear, but you'll know, okay, well, I mean, let's take an example, right? Supermax wants to become a Olympic powerlifter, okay? I'm just throwing out crazy stuff here, okay? So what does Supermax need to do? Well, he needs to like start doing powerlifting. He needs to start getting in the gym and doing bench press, squat, and deadlift, right? The 3 powerlift lifts, okay? Maybe he needs to go and grab a coach and hire a coach to help him to do that, right? There's a bunch of things. Maybe he needs to figure out a new diet plan that will support his powerlifting and eat 12,000 eggs or whatever it is. You see what I'm saying? It's like, once you know what you're trying to become, the path is much clearer. So you read the Bulldog book, so now figure out who you want to become based on that. How are you going to become the fucking Bulldog, right? That you want to be. And then once you have that visualization in your head, then those actions that are going to get you there should be pretty clear.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks again. This was fun. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we'll see you in the forums. Keep the questions coming. Like John said, definitely dive in there, be active. And if you're still learning, then John mentioned asking questions earlier. That's a really great way. Like if you're the person that's always popping up with really great questions that start, the epic threads that go on for pages and pages, then that's a good thing to be too. And it doesn't require you being an expert. So
exactly.
So, all right. Well, we'll see you in the forums and on the email list.
All right, guys.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.